So we learned about demand, we learned about supply, we put them all together. Now let's talk about what happens when things move. What happens when, there's an event that happens, right? In the news or something like that. So essentially these models are useful because they allow us some sort of predictive power in terms of, given that something happens, we expect the price and quantity to do blank, to go up, to go down. Sometimes it depends. So let's go ahead and just for reference have our demand curve up here. And when we're talking about shifts in the demand curve, we want to talk about shifting outwards or to the right, and then shifting inwards or to the left. We don't want to say in and out. We want to get away from in and out because that's going to make our supply shifts more difficult for us to deal with. So let's get into the habit right now of leftward and rightward, rather than up or down or in and out. So what are the things that are going to cause demand? And for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to talk about the things, we're going to talk about the things as they increase demand. So all of these demand shifters that we talk about, we're going to kind of couch them in a, how would this increase demand? So the first cause of a shift in demand that we have is our tastes and preferences. So this is advertising. This is celebrity endorsements. This is a recent news study shows that, drinking coffee every day is good for your heart. It's bad for your heart. Chocolate's good for cancer, bad, right? It's all of those kind of things. So this is kind of a catch-all for a lot of stuff, but it's the tastes and preferences category. So it'll be a pretty clear prompt that you'll be given in terms of, all of a sudden, there's been an increase in the research showing the health effects of soy. What's this going to do to the demand for edamame, right? Edamame, is soybeans. And so because of the fact that there's this positive research for soy, there's going to be a shift to the right for that demand for edamame or for soy-based products. So this is probably the number one most common shifter, but there are more. So our second one that we want to talk about is income. And when we talk about income, we have to specify what type of good is it. If it's a normal good, then that means that, well, it just acts normally. And by acting normally, we mean that as you increase, as you get more income, that's going to cause demand to shift to the right. So more income causes you to buy more of the thing at any given price, right? This is 90% of the goods that we buy. Hats, clothing, pedicures, manicures, video games, bicycles, consumer electronics, services, massages, right? All sorts of stuff. All of these things, as our incomes increase, we consume more of them. So what's the exception to this? The exception to this is if it's what's called an inferior good. An inferior good is the opposite of a normal good, meaning inferior goods, in order for our demand to increase, we would have to have a decrease in our income. So inferior goods are things like ramen noodles, things like store brand one-ply toilet paper, right? These are things that as soon as you start to make more money, you stop purchasing them. Bus passes, right? Like if all of a sudden I started to, like if all of a sudden I started to make less money and I lived in a city where there was public transportation, I'd have to sell my car and I'd have to get bus passes, right? Similar kind of thing, like canned goods compared to fresh, canned vegetables compared to fresh vegetables. But ramen noodles is a really good one. Spam is another really good one, right? These are things that, store-bought mac and cheese. These are things that, when you're on a limited budget, you tend to eat a lot of it. And as your income grows, your demand for those things decreases. So these move opposite. So normal, they move in the same direction, your income and your demand for the goods, but inferior goods, they move in opposite directions. All right. Our third shifter of demand is going to be the price of a complementary good. And so this is probably a new term for a lot of us. When we are talking about complements, we're talking about things that always go together. So, tennis courts and tennis balls. Peanut butter and jelly. Socks and shoes. So when the price of a complement good falls, if there's a decrease in the price of a complement good, that's going to cause my demand to shift to the right. The other one you can think about is hot dogs and hot dog buns. Right? We don't buy hot dog buns unless we're buying hot dogs. So if the price of a hot dog were to decrease, the quantity demanded, not the quantity demanded, the demand curve at any given price for hot dog buns is going to shift to the right. There's going to be more hot dog buns demanded regardless of the price of hot dog buns, because the thing that you always eat with a hot dog bun, the hot dog, is now 50% cheaper or something, right? There's a big fire sale on hot dogs. So as a result, everybody's going to go and there's going to be no more hot dog buns left because of the sale on hot dogs. So this is a price of a related good, and it's specifically the price of a complement. The other related good that we have is a substitute. And so for this, we could talk about Coke and Pepsi, Xbox and PlayStation, could be hamburgers, and hot dogs. So if the price of hot dogs, so the price of a substitute let's say the price of hot dogs were to increase, this would shift my demand to the right for its substitute. So if the price of hot dogs were to increase, people are going to substitute them for hamburgers. The demand for hamburgers is going to increase regardless of the price of hamburgers, and nothing is happening in the supply, the production market for hamburgers. It's not that beef is getting more expensive. It's not that transportation is getting more expensive or packaging is getting more expensive. It's only the price of hot dogs increasing, and that's going to drive demand to the right for hamburgers. We have two more. Number 5. Number 5 is a pretty easy one. It is simply the number of buyers. So if there's an increase in population, for whatever reason, baby boom, increase of immigration, whatever, aliens land, there's going to be a shift in the demand to the right. And our last shifter of the demand is our expectations about the future. So if you have an expectation that prices are going to increase, then that means that you're going to go out and panic buy a bunch of stuff today. This is what happened during COVID with paper towels and toilet paper and canned goods and stuff like that, right? Everybody thought that the prices were going to go up. They had this expectation. And as a result of that expectation, there was nothing else going on but the expectation changing that prices are going to increase. And so as a result, there was a shift to the right in terms of a lot of these non-perishable staple goods. It's important for us to keep in mind that never once in any of these situations is price a factor. So price changes, if I can correctly spell price with this delay here. So price changes never, ever, ever, ever cause a shift in demand. So we know that it's either tastes and preferences. As something becomes more popular, demand shifts to the right. We know if it's a normal good, then our income increases, it shifts to the right. If it's an inferior good, our income has to decrease for it to shift to the right. If it's the price of a complement good, that complement good has to decrease in price for our demand to shift to the right. If it's the price of a substitute good, the substitute good has to become more expensive to drive you to buy the other good, right? The price of hot dogs increases, you're going to buy more hamburgers. If there's more people in the market, there's going to be a shift in demand to the right. And if you think that things are going to become more expensive, or if you think they're just going to become unavailable, then there's going to be a shift in demand to the right. But price changes only result in movements along the demand curve. Never, ever a movement, never a shift of the demand curve. So a price change, just so that we're thorough here, if I said show me on a demand curve price increasing from $5 to $7, you would show me $5 for some Q related to $5 price. And then there would be an increase to $7. So we would have a movement along the demand curve up until we got to $7 and a new quantity demanded where the price is $7. So that is the only thing that happens from a price change, a movement along the demand curve. Never, ever, ever a shift in demand. Too often we think, well, the price dropped, so demand increased. No, the price dropped, so there's an increase in the quantity demanded. So we have to kind of really change our language that we're used to using outside of economics, right? And really start to be specific about a shift in demand only happens because of one of these 6 things. Questions on that?